So we're gonna do the most casual car review in comparison between two cars that I think are relatively similar priced. And I have Basil here joining me. If you haven't met Basil, because he's the first time on my channel.
Second time.
Second time. He's been on the channel before, I think.
Yes.
He is one of my closest friends. We grew up together and we do all sorts of crazy car shits together. So that's my M2, and this is somebody's 996.
I borrowed this car.
It's a borrowed 996.
It's a borrowed 996, full disclosure.
Yes. So this is the 996. The 996 is a great budget Porsche, right? Tell me why you like the 996 best.
So the 996 is the first water-cooled Porsche. It's one of the more underrated Porsches. People don't like it because of the egg-shaped headlights, but I think the styling has not aged that much compared to some of the other models. But it's a great bang for buck, great entry-level car. And I mean, behind the wheel of one of these, you can like throw it in the corners and drive with full confidence. I mean, if you're not a total dumb, there's a lot of understeer, but I mean, you just got to get behind the wheel of one of these to truly understand what it is about.
So the 996 has been around for a very long time. I think it was early 2000s.
1999 was the first year, and then I believe it ended production in 05.
So technically, this is a Radwood era car. If you talk about it, 1999, right? You can get into Radwood with one of these. First year, yeah. But this is the 996 Turbo. This is like the cream of the crop, besides the GT3 RS, right? So this is as good as it gets. This is the big engine with a turbo in it. It's fast, it's great. The cool thing about it is you can get into one of these for a hefty price of only 60 grand, which is why we're comparing it to a pretty new M2 car, which is also 60 grand. So this is kind of a head-to-head. I'm going to be a little biased. That's my M2. So I'm going to say, let's pick the M2, but at the same time, it's a Porsche, and Porsches are awesome. And they always say, everybody who goes from a BMW ends up in a Porsche at some point or not. And this is the one people really go for because all the other Porsches are like 100 plus, and these can be attainable up turbo for 60 grand, which is a pretty good bargain for what you get.
Okay, so here inside the 996, it's all business. There isn't much gadgets or gizmos out. And a matter of fact, this one doesn't even have heated seats. This specific example is fitted with an aftermarket Pioneer head unit. Usually, I mean, at this day and age, a 2001 car, it needs some sort of updated infotainment just for Bluetooth, not necessarily Apple CarPlay, but just so you can have better ways to listen to your music. Now, not even steering wheel controls, just very basic car, single zone climate control, and a 6-speed. This example has some wood trim, which I wouldn't really spec it out with it, but it's not too bad and it feels good. The seats, they don't hug you as good as like the M2, so if bolstering is a thing, I would definitely switch it out for some sport seats or some aftermarkets. But really, there's not much with the interior on this vehicle. We got a little mall cop going on. It's like, what the fuck? Like, what are they doing? We're two professionals talking about cars.
Clocks in.
You don't even get cup holders in here.
What is that? What are those?
This is an aftermarket cup holder.
That's wild.
So somebody made their own cup holder.
Whoa, that looks like some AliExpress.
And you can adjust it, look. So it's like handcuffs.
Actually, it looks like somebody went to Home Depot and used like some fence tools.
It looks like some scaffolding and just some, but the adjustment is cool. I tried to use it this morning. It's useless. You cannot put anything in this cup holder.
That's terrible. I thought BMWs had bad cup holders, but then there's this.
Well, I found an empty water bottle on the floor. I put it in here, and like this, for practicality, like you go to shift gears, it's like usually on the newer like Porsches 997s, Boxers, Caymans, they put them in the dash. Now on the 996s, they had no cup holders, so that was one thing that I didn't realize. I'm sure there's aftermarket options or you can make your own, but that's one thing to consider when paying 60 grand for a car. You kind of want a cup holder or two. So one thing you'll notice right off the bat with this car is, this is what I noticed. If you got a stick shift one, the clutch is actually all the pedals are like to the right. There's like a huge dead pedal on the left, and then like
nothingness on the past it. There's like this wall thing, and it's kind of crazy, but it's really unique, and it gives me very retro vibes. Actually, it does not feel that modern. I thought it would feel way more modern. Like you get the E46 M3, and it's like pretty modern if you put a nice like stereo in it, like one of those CarPlay units. It kind of gives you a little bit of a modern feel. This gives you a very retro feel. This gives you a 90s feel almost, very of its time, early 2000s. But I love the gauge clusters. That's something Porsche does really well. They always have the coolest gauge clusters, and honestly, it looks like it's a blast to drive. I mean, the visibility out the front windshield and the sides, it's such a driver-focused car, and you know it's gonna age well because it's a Porsche.
So we need Bassel's unbiased opinion of the M2, because this is my M2, and I don't want to give you guys the sense that I'm just like loving my own car.
Now, like Keenan said, unbiased opinion. It might be a little biased as my end as well, because I am a big BMW guy myself. I've had my fair share of BMWs. I currently daily drive a 335, and there is not much interior. Like BMW does that one thing very well, where the interiors are familiar across the board. A lot of them use interchangeable parts. Now, coming into the M2 from the 996, whether it's a turbo or not, it's like stepping into the future. Again, that 20 years is a big gap between the two cars. With the M2, you still get your 6-speed. You get really nice like bolstering in the seats, full infotainment, digital gauge cluster. You still get the hard buttons, and you have like your heated seats. You have cup holders in this one, but it's just a nice place to be overall. You really feel connected to the car, sitting in these seats. You have a nice low angle in the cabin, a lot of visibility. That's one thing BMW does very well. Their interiors feel like home. Now, granted, there is still going to be your cheap plastics and peelable materials, but you get that as well in cars like the 997 and the 996, where you'll see some patina, and there's not much you can really do about that unless you're really OCD and keep it all covered in plastic at the end of the day.
Alright, so now I'm reviewing my own car, so it feels kind of odd, or comparing it to the 996, and I'll tell you right off the bat, it feels like a modern car. You got really nice amenities, like Bassel said. Everything is really just new and nice. And you know, you have the longer dash that comes out a little bit further. You have, it feels a little bit more spacious in here. But that kind of comes at a cost, right? So like, yes, that's a beautiful new car, but there's something special about the 996. And I say that because I like the retro vibes. I like getting into it and feel like I stepped into the 90s or early 2000s. It feels like I'm in a time machine, but you still have modern amenities like that aftermarket head unit, or you can put a CarPlay car unit if you wanted to. And it has AC and heat and heated seats and all these nice luxuries that you know for modern cars. Starts up every time. It's really nice, and Porsche is pretty reliable too, so I wouldn't expect too many issues with these. So if you're looking for the more retro vibe, if you want to stick out a little bit more, you get the 996. If you want something, and I picked the M2 for a reason, and it's because I wanted a new BMW. Well, I can still get a new BMW that's special, that 20, 30 years down the line, I can give it to my kids growing up, and they're gonna enjoy it, and it's something I wanted to keep forever. And I can just keep putting money into it and fixing it like a normal BMW. So that's something you can do with a 996, but if you buy one now, it's sort of already there, right? It's already almost 20 years old. Actually, it is past 20 years old. So you're kind of already past that threshold. You're not gonna buy a new 996 or a relatively new one and pass it down as a family heirloom, or it's not gonna become a classic. It already is a classic. This will become a classic. I think this is one of the few good last BMWs that can do that. And as far as Porsche, every Porsche is going to be a classic. They're just special. They're built like that. Every generation is built like that.
But like Yanan said, I can definitely agree with him. This is sort of like a classic car, while the M2 is going to be a modern classic down the line, just like the 1M. There's not much really that you can do to these cars to make them a lot better. Do some aftermarket suspension, some wheel setups, and like tuning. But you don't really necessarily have to do any crazy builds for these cars to stand out and for you to have fun in, and they're still reliable turbo 6-cylinder cars. At the end of you have to put some money into them, but at the end of the day, they're not going to leave you stranded at the side of the road. It comes at a cost. Everything comes at a cost. You take care of these beasts, and they'll last you a very long time. I've seen these 996 examples, turbos, 200,000 miles. And we know M cars that if you drive them, you can rack up some miles at no headache. They're definitely cars to consider. And if you don't want to stick out and you want something fast, fun, and low key, the M2 and the 996 turbo are definitely something to consider.
The 0 to 60 on the M2 is the same 0 to 60 on the Porsche 996 turbo. It's actually 4.0, 4.3 depending where you look, but they're both really pretty fast for their age. Specifically this one, I'm very impressed with the speed this thing has for its age. And the M2 of course is going to be fast, it's a new M car, but they're still that kind of fast where you can enjoy them on the roads. They're not like Teslas where you get 2.7 0 to 60 or 3.0 0 to 60. You get, a steady 4.0, and that's all you really need, honestly, if you have fun with it.
These do have similar horsepower. Now I know with the X51, the 996 is about 500 horsepower out the box. I think the standard ones, don't quote me on this, are in the higher 400s, similar to the BMW M2 competition. They're almost the same power numbers, same track. I've seen the lap times almost similar. So it's like 20 years between the two cars, but the Porsche is just ahead of its time in my opinion.
Yeah, it really was ahead of its time. You can't beat the turbo. I mean, if you think about it, it was like a close to $200,000 new car, right? How was the over?
It was like 100,000 in 2001.
Yeah, so we'll talk with inflation close to 200,000 these days. So they're really ahead of their time. This was a supercar of its era. And compared to what was this? Like a Lamborghini Gallardo had similar performance figures of the era, right? So you had all of that, and so they're both very performance oriented. They're so similar in performance on paper and the way that they feel. So they both driving down this road, they actually feel very similar, very sporty, very uncompromised in sport. Give you a little bit of luxury from the German side, but not too much. They're not really luxury cars, but they're more luxurious than something on the Japanese side, right? So with that, let's get to, because now we talked about performance, let's actually get some exhaust clips and we'll compare them both because they actually both sound terrible from factory. And this one sounds like a vacuum cleaner. This one sounds like it has sort of, it sounds like a frog, okay? That's what it sounds like.
I would definitely agree on the vacuum cleaner statement. Now this car is fitted with a Meisterschaft exhaust. This is stock and it's quiet. Now for the power numbers that this car makes and how it feels going down the road, you do not expect it to be quiet. It's like a Tesla. You get into it on the highway, you look down, you're doing 150, but it doesn't sound like anything. Nothing at all. 150 in Mexico, I don't know around here, about 75 miles an hour.
Watson here, and this is a BMW. So with the exhaust clips, it kind of is not fair because I got the Meisterschaft and it kind of fixes the exhaust sound on the S55. Sounds pretty good in my opinion. But anyways, what we're gonna do is we're gonna just give you a quick, what do we recommend? So I want to do a drive video with the 996, but I don't have permission from the owner yet. So if you guys really like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll try and get us permission to actually go drive the 996 and maybe even do a drag race between the two. So, what's your thoughts on the M2 versus 996? Which one would you have?
For everyday driving, truthfully, it would have to be the BMW M2 just because of all the modern comfort amenities. If it's just a weekend warrior, not a daily driver, I would take the 996 because you can take this car, even stop to a track, rip it, drive it back home. And the M2, it's a track car, but I wouldn't necessarily track it like I would this car.
Yeah, I think he's right about that. I think maybe because it's too new and too nice, I wouldn't take it on the track. Maybe in like 10 years when it's less nice, I'll probably take it on the track. But I actually think I would have either. I couldn't decide. Honestly, I've been sitting and thinking about it this entire time. Which one would I have? Even though I have the M2. I don't know. The 996 is pretty cool. It's pretty special. It handles really good. It looks really retro and nice. I don't know. You can't go wrong with either one, and they're so similar across the board. Maybe the only thing the M2 has is a little bit more practicality, but that's about it. Also, this is a Porsche, so you want to drive a Porsche or you want to drive a BMW. Even BMW drivers move to Porsches, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, I'll drive the Porsche.
They're both awesome cars.
That's true.
No hate to either one of the brands. Again, we're both biased towards both brands. We grew up playing games with Porsches, couldn't afford buying them, so we bought BMWs. Porsche is always the next step. Again, the M2 it's a lot more practical. Parts are still expensive, but buying parts for these guys, modding these guys, I mean, dude, you have to find oil somewhere.
I think they're both going to be just as expensive to fix.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Porsche is more reliable, but these are also 20 years old, and this is brand new, right?
So like, get a warranty with that one.
Exactly.
It's cheaper to insure.
That's also true. Also, that has back seats, so practicality, yeah. Like
this does, but you have to chop off both of your legs to get back there.
Yeah.
So, a lot more trunk space.
Yeah, man. Honestly, you can't go wrong with either one. But if you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And we're gonna try and do more comparisons. This is, like I said, this is the most casual review of the two cars. You're not gonna see us doing some crazy stuff.
Heat of the moment.
Yeah.
He had the camera, I had the car. I said, let's do it.
Yeah.
So obviously we didn't plan ahead of what we were gonna say. But I mean, if we can, get more people interested in these videos, definitely we can make more.
Yeah, definitely. Like and subscribe.